Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2016-2017 Board of Aldermen budget deliberations. Today is April 7th, 2016, and today we are here for the public comment portion of the aldermanic budget process. But before we begin, will everyone please join me as we salute our flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson.
Present.
Alderman Beatty. Alderman Bevan. Alderman Beer.
He's here.
He's here. He's coming up. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Gurman. Alderman Gennatasio.
Here.
Alderman Golden. Alderman Grant.
Here.
Alderman Hardiman. Alderman Shaw. Alderman Smith. Alderman Veccarelli. Alderman Vitro. Alderman Vitale. 13 present, Mr.
13 present, we do have a quorum. This is the budget meeting devoted to public comment. We will start with the education side of the budget first and then move on to the city side of the budget. Please remember that the time limited granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Any speaker wishing to comment on the education side of the budget, please come to the podium at this time.
My name is Mike Brown, 67 Point Beach Drive in Milford. I just feel that the Board of Finance exceeded its mandate when it cut the education budget request by $174,000. The original budget request was an increase of less than 1% and over the fiscal year, and very conservative by all angles, I think. The budget was passed unanimously by the Board of Education, which is made up of 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. Yet the Board of Finance ignored the testimony presented by the administration and the board chair. They relied instead on erroneous hearsay from one member about some buses that he saw in a Wendy's parking lot, whatever that has anything to do with anything. The same Board of Finance member said he wanted to cut the budget because he read somewhere, he couldn't remember where, the Milford schools were doing badly, is what he read. Even if that were the case, and it's not, by the way. It seems that you would give even more money to a school system that you thought was doing badly, not less. That is unless you want to punish the schools or the children in some way, shape, or form. I asked this Board of Aldermen, to restore the at least $134,000 cut by the Board of Finance. I know this calls for a 2/3 vote, but I feel that there are at least 10 of you who care enough about education of the children in Milford. Please restore the $134,000 back to the education budget. Thank you.
Hi, Tessa Marquis, also at 67 Point Beach Drive. When Mike Brown told me about this, it seemed to me that it was a seemingly arbitrary and certainly personal prejudice of one individual on the Board of Finance, which swayed all of the members. And it's hard to believe that these representatives of the city of Milford are so anti-education and anti-children and anti-teachers that they would be opposed to having a vital, well-funded school system. As the Board of Aldermen know, a good school system helps us to draw people to our town, and we've all been lucky enough to have good educations. So I also ask that you restore the money to the budget for the Board of Education. And I noticed that there is one place you can get some of that money, which is that once again, there's going to be a science study. This is probably the 10th or 12th time that funding has been requested for a science study for downtown Milford. And that's throwing good money after bad. Please don't fund a science study that is a repeat of previous science studies. Fund education. Thank you.
Hi, Carol Thomas, 84 Thompson Street. Before the Board of Finance cut the Board of Education budget, I spoke to a few aldermen. And every time I spoke to someone, they said, I can't see it being cut. It's ridiculous to even bother. It's such a minimal increase. It would be an insult to cut it. Well, the Board of Finance did cut it. It is an insult. Dr. Fieser is a whiz at budgets. I'm asking that you reinstate the budget as Dr. Fieser presented it. That's the very least you could do for the children of Milford. And if someone on the Board of Finance doesn't understand something, it's their due diligence to find the right answer, not to just walk away with their shoulders shrugged and say they don't know why. It's their job to know why. I also have a letter here from someone who couldn't make it. May I present that to the secretary? Will that be read or not read? Not read? Someone couldn't make it, and they asked me to present a letter for them.
If you wanted to read it, you want to read it?
I don't have my reading glasses. I have my distance glasses.
Oh, our secretary can read it.
Okay. All right, so I'm here to ask you to please reinstate the budget that Dr. Fieser presented. It's a fiscally sound and wise thing to do. Thank you.
Just for the record, the letter is from Kara Flannery, 41 North Street. It's a rather lengthy letter, so I will make copies and distribute to each member of the Board of Aldermen, if that's okay with everyone. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the Board of Education side of the budget?
Hi, Bob Thomas, 84 Thompson Street. The main thing is this, it's education, it's for our children. So I ask that you would please consider to have the Board of Finance put the money back into the budget. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on the Board of Education side of the budget? Hearing none, at this point, any speaker wishing to comment on the city side of the budget, please come to the podium at this time.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Tammy Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of the Literacy Volunteers here in Milford. We're located at Fanny Beach Community Center on Dixon Street in Woodmont. Literacy Volunteers is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have been in Milford for 22 years serving adults with basic and life skills, immigrant adults with English support, and we support literacy in our youth with book drives and donations. Some of you may be surprised that there are 45 languages here spoken in Milford. Last year, we supported over 100 students and donated 700 books to local children. Our tutors donated 4,000 hours. The entire organization volunteered over 5. We rely heavily on our volunteers to support our programs, but our tutors serve as so much more than just being a teacher. They become mentors, social workers, and friends. We have one woman from the Ukraine who's learning English. Ala wants to go to college so she can get a better job. Her tutor has assisted her with transcripts, the registration process, meeting with her guidance counselors, and helping her with classwork that she must complete. She's doing very well, and this year she made the Dean's List. Another one of our students came to us from Cambodia. She's in an intermediate beginners class and has also attended a conversation class. Savun has been with the center for 5 years. She received her citizenship last year after living in the U.S. for 20 years with her husband and her son. She wants to work, but she doesn't have a high school diploma. She only finished the 4th grade in her home country. Now she's working with 2 additional tutors to help in math, science, and history because she's entered into the NEDP program. I have no doubt that she will succeed. The NEDP is a wonderful program for those who don't fit into the GED certificate. I tell you these stories because the center is more than just English classes. We offer a support system for people new to our country trying to navigate in our world. We offer support to many women who have come here with their husbands because of their work transfer. Their children go off to school and they don't have anyone to talk to. They can't read labels in the grocery store. They can't make a parent-teacher conference, and they can't go to a PTA meeting. They can't help their children with their homework. It can be an isolating experience for them. But with the tutor's support, we are changing people's lives. So I come to you tonight humbly looking for financial support. I'm proud to say that for 22 years, we have successfully funded our programs with 2 part-time employees on fundraisers, personal donations, and small grants. However, times are changing. Funders are not giving as often. Fundraisers do not yield the same amounts. Frankly, we're finishing the first quarter and we're down almost $8,000, so I'm nervous. Our annual budget is under $95,000. So I ask, why is literacy important to the Milford community? Literacy empowers adults to make a better life and world for themselves and their families. Literacy helps families be healthier, enables them to support themselves through work, be better citizens, and create a more fair and just society. Helping people change their lives by giving them reading, writing, and basic skills will overall improve our community. I will close with an essay from one of our students who wrote about his experience. Lester Mitchell was not given the opportunity to have an education when he was young. He comes from Jamaica. Now he's 78, and he is finally able to learn proper English with one of his tutors at the center. My life. I was born on the beautiful island of Jamaica, but my life in the beginning was not beautiful because I was motherless and fatherless. As a baby, I was passed from hand to whoever would feed and care for me. When I was little, I was passed to Mary Douglas, who cut a flour sack to make me a shirt. I lived with her and her nephew. Miss Mary sent her nephew to school, but not me. My purpose was to guide Miss Mary's father, who was blind, and to tend to the pigs and the goats. After her father died, Miss Mary leased the house to the land to a man, took her nephew and her sister, and left me behind. The man was a cruel man. He did not feed or clothe me. Once when I took a piece of bread from the table, he burned my hands, tied my thumbs together, and beat me until I thought I would die. I slept outdoors under a tree. I worked every day in the fields of yams, cocoa, dashim, cassavas, sugarcane, and coffee beans. Animals were treated better than me. I began to have cruel intentions and became wicked inside. As I grew older, one of the jobs I had was to take sugarcane loaded on a donkey from the field to the road for pickup. I was paid 1 cent a day. When I was 28 years old, I met a woman and had children. I looked at my children and wanted a better life for them. I released the burning wickedness inside me and decided to move my family from the countryside where there was no future to the city where I hoped to build a good life. I was employed as a handyman gardener and gained a reputation as a hard worker who was always honest and polite. I sent all my children to school. I was hired to clean the wards in the hospital, then to clean the kitchen, then to a nursing home. I was respectful and slowly climbed the mountain to a good job as a cleaner of the operating room and the hospital orderly. I worked 37 years in that hospital and earned the Best Male Orderly Award. I retired to the United States and lived with my daughter. Last year, I started to learn proper English with my tutor, Zoe Beck. Although my mind sometimes goes for a walk when I'm reading and writing, I am delighted to finally be in school. So I thank you for any consideration and hope that you'll find it within your budget to support the literacy volunteers and help people like Lester, Ala, and Savun. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the city side of the budget?
Taft Clark Jr., 87 Carriage Path South. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm here tonight to ask that this board please consider not funding the new Clerk A concierge position in the DPLU that is proposed in the budget for the next fiscal year. Though I'm here strictly as a concerned resident and taxpayer of the city, I am also the clerk of the Planning and Zoning Office. My position generally requires that I'm involved in the permitting process and work with applicants on a daily basis. I only mention this so the board understands that I am familiar with the DPLU policies and procedures. In the time since this position was first filled using seasonal temp funds approximately 1 year ago, it has been proven time and time again that it does not add any benefit to the permitting process. In fact, this position hinders the efficiency of the permitting process, adding an extra step for applicants as well as creating a bottleneck in the traffic of applicants trying to apply for permits. Before the implementation of the policies having to do with this position, there is potential in both the planning and zoning and building inspection offices for multiple staff members to be reviewing applications and inputting information into the permitting system simultaneously. Under current procedures, all applicants for both departments must go to a single person to have their information input and then go to the department they're applying to in order to get their plans reviewed. Throughout the time this position has been staffed, there have been a number of complaints from residents and their contractors about how much time it takes to get through the permitting process. A couple of contractors who regularly do work in the city have even gone as far as to say that it feels like the process is on track to go back to how it was before the DPLU was created. After the first person who staffed this position quit, many people commented that they were glad they did not have to go through the extra step anymore and could simply come to the office they need to apply to. Once the position was filled a second time, many people shared their frustration once again with having to go through 3 different people to apply for a permit and the extra time it is taking for them to get through the process. Although this is a very simplified version of the issues surrounding funding this position, I hope it is at least adequate enough to give a basic understanding as to why it should not be funded. Thank you.
Good evening. Anne Louise Schnepp, 61 Milford Point Road, and I want to make some comments about this. Anne Louise Schnepp, 61 Milford Point Road. I want to present some comments about the possible sale of the Stowe Farm. I know the property was bought back in 2002 with the idea of turning it into an arts center, and I was asked among my art peers to represent them to the city and communicate what was going on with that project. I have a bachelor's of fine art and painting, and I have a master's in painting, so they trusted me with my opinion and their wishes to go forward with the needs of the artists, professional artists, students who need art education, and the proliferation of an artist community in the Walnut Beach area. Many studies were done with architects for the soil preservation and the preservation of the property, the historical significance of the property. If you have not seen and been in that barn, it's a beautiful, beautiful space. And it has quite a large property that surrounds it. And I would hate to see that that would go to from a public entity to a private one, because I still feel the needs of the community can still be met there, even though our plans for an arts center were expensive, but it was always the intention to provide a place for the education of the arts, not only fine arts, the plastic arts, music, and dance, and the greater community within those disciplines would be represented there in that building. And I feel a responsibility to my artists to come and still say that that need is still there and should still be met by the city, because they did buy that property originally for that to happen. I know, I've heard that a company that would like to buy it has a cooking school and would like to set up shop there. And I believe that can still happen. If the city still had the building, they could do that, and they could rent from the city, and it could be a way for that building to be financially profitable. They could do dances there, they could do their cooking school there, they can have banquets there, we can still teach there. There still can be a place for the community to gather artistically, musically, a community gathering place for the Walnut Beach area that is struggling, I still believe, to become economically viable. And that property is gorgeous. I'd hate to see it leave the community's hands, because once it's gone, it's gone. And if you have not seen the building, you should go down and see it, because the opportunities that it presents are enormous, and it just takes a little bit of creativity. And that building is very structurally sound. It does need some care, but as a structure, historically, it should stay for the citizens of Milford. Thank you.
Does anyone else like to speak on the city side of the budget? Hearing none, is there a motion to recess to the next budget meeting, which is going to be on April 14th, 2016?
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're in recess.